Guys, I'm smart as fuck, okay? Don't say I'm not. I am smart as hell. Um, and you can see it in my performance across a host of different domains. There are some things which I just struggle with because I've got, these bizarre neurodivergences. These are called by some learning disabilities. They're not learning disabilities, it's just a different way of processing information. And that's why a lot of different traditional means of assessing intelligence in this population don't work. For example, I struggle with some spelling of words. It's just difficult for me. Uh, and but the meanings, how they interact with each other, I can play with the logic and the reasoning of them better than most people I've met. Um, there are very few people who are able to engage in the level of analysis I can. And it's not just because I spend a large amount of time studying, that certainly helped. There is, I am naturally quite intelligent. And some things I have struggled with because I lacked discipline when I was younger, particularly maths. I kind of, just didn't fucking know how to apply myself with that. It's a distractibility thing. And if I had just used procedures such as bothering to memorize BOMDAS and that shit, oh dude, it was all procedural. It was a large amount of arrogance, and just arrogance and the lack of interest is creates so many problems with learning. Um, like there's there are some things which I just don't care about, like spelling. Like for me, it's all about the meaning of the words, and it's the same with people and places and remembering names of things. I just don't fucking bother, and I don't think it's an intelligence thing. I think it's just a lack of interest, and I think this is something which is very much associated with autism. It's the idea that different things, like if something, it's like there's this very narrowly defined set of interests, and if things don't fall within that, then people who have this tendency for autism just tend not to care. And as a result, there are a whole lot of, I have this deep knowledge on these specific fields. However, that's because it's of a shit ton of interest to me, like an abnormal amount of interest to me. Um, and the things which do not interest me, people who are autistic or on the spectrum are less likely to engage with. And this is why um, you'll see these when in people who are autistic, you'll see these big differences sometimes in the test results when you do an IQ test. You'll see people who are neurodivergent, they might be very high in a couple of things but very low in another couple. The most obvious example of that is specific learning disabilities such as dyslexia. And to measure that, you actually need to apply two very different psychometric tests. I'm trying to remember them. One's the whisk. I don't know what the other one is. Um, but like, look, main thing is I'm a smart cookie. It took me a while to learn stats. I didn't even bother with my honors year. In my postgraduate diploma, I fucking aced that shit. Um, in my bachelor's degree, I didn't even fucking bother. I was pretty impressed with myself when I completed the honors degree. I was like, man, I just did a honors thesis which included information on a subject which I really struggled with when I first did it at a bachelor's degree. Kind of because I just did not have any care or application to my work at the time, and hadn't really didn't understand how important stats was. Um, I was not a good student during my bachelor first degree. The only things which really, there were things like political economy which I was just thrived in, and that's the skill set I have. It's that kind of literary analysis. But little fiddly shit like the spelling of words and basic and a lot of math. It just didn't interest me, and because of that lack of interest, I think there's a lack of achievement. Um, with maths now, that very much does interest me, and I'd like to go back to it. now's not the time to redo math. And because I keep making stupid fucking spelling mistakes, I'm going back through all the fucking stupid words which I keep forgetting the spelling of, and making sure I'm doing that right, because I do not have an attention to detail. I am not a detailed oriented person. I find detail finicky and I just don't care. And that's why I'm now spending the time doing things like making sure I can spell words which I um, have noticed that I misspelled previously. Like, you read my reports, they're so well written. They're really well written because I have a skill at writing, which I put a lot of effort into developing. Either way, I'm a smart cookie. I'm not so smart to the point in such a way as we would measure on an IQ test, where um, where I'm so outside of what is normal that my achievement is not something which other people can emulate. Um, I think the intensity of my interest and the commitment and humility, and that's the big one. You need to be humble to achieve a high level of skill, because to be humble, to learn, requires that humility. And if you're going to go through the process of studying something from the systematically from the bottom to the top, you can't get yourself caught up in thinking how good you are all the time, because then you won't be oriented towards the learning. Either way, that's my rant. Have a good day.